I like to describe it.
What they're able to do in the different roles. They're what? What are they, Stoke?
They are a Swiss Army knife.
Boom! Yes, there you go. You got this down.
I'm hot today. I'm hot.
So the idea is that he wants to get a Reggie Bush, an Alvin Kamara, a Jimmy Graham, a Jeremy Shockey. I love the Jeremy Shockey reference. But the idea being that a running back or tight end. Last year we saw Marvin Mims as a receiver kind of be used in that joker role, but he was specific in saying running back or tight end. Well, Deebo Samuel, who is going to be looking to get traded from San Francisco, was asked about possible destinations that might be a good fit for him. Here's what he said. Oh, hold on a second. Let's bring that back up. Here we go.
I can say Denver. Bo Nix is playing really, really good ball right now. Your defense is outrageous. You got P2 out there who's, I would say, the best at the position right now. Probably been for the past 2 years. You got the other guy on the other side. I just think you need a couple more pieces, and then it'll be what it need to be, and you just have to get past Pat Mahomes every year.
So there was Deebo Samuel with apparently somebody swinging a tennis racket right by his microphone there, as you heard the
weird.
whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. We say good morning to our pal Mark Schlereth. Good morning, Stank.
Good morning. How are you, boy? How you boys doing?
We're doing
Cold.
good.
Cold.
And props to our guy Stoke, because let's face it, we were all wondering whether or not he'd make it in today. I even texted him. I couldn't resist, Stoke. Stink, you would love this.
Yeah.
Joel, and we'll bring Clad on, too. He's going to love this, too, because I know how much Stoke does not like driving in the snow. So I knew he was very nervous about this morning, so I sent him a text at about 9 p.m. last night. I said, you got that pit in your stomach? And with a little gif of the Grinch and his faithful dog Max staring over the edge of Mount Crumpet.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
It's probably, 10, 12 degrees colder at the top of Mount Crumpet than it is at the station there, Stoke?
Yeah. We get a lot more snow up there, too.
So he made it.
That's good.
So we're all happy about that. Let us say good morning to our pal Joel Klatt, who joins us. Joel, I gave you the teary goodbye last week, not knowing you had one more week, so I'm going to try to summon up the same emotion when we're done here, but I can't guarantee it.
Yeah, no problem. You're just trying to get rid of me. I understand it. That's fine. Whatever you need, Mike.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. It was uneventful Super Bowl, but I tell you, I immediately started turning towards the draft. And today, you guys will have to go check it out. You can take a look at it. I actually my first mock draft dropped.
Oh, really?
Today, and so you can go check it out. You can go check it out on YouTube at Joel Klatt Show, the YouTube page. But I just want to remind you, it was this conversation 12 months ago when I said Bo Nix would be a great fit for the Denver Broncos. So go check out who I gave the Broncos.
Is there a printable version of this? Because that's what we can really go with.
This guy.
This is really what we can go with. There's a version.
I can just run it down for you.
Maybe you
I
can
gave
just
the Broncos
tell us.
Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan.
All right. Why?
Well, Tyler Warren was already off the board, and I think Denver needs some help at the line of scrimmage, as I've talked about. And Loveland was an excellent run blocker for Michigan, had to be because of the way that they run their offense, their philosophy. And he's also just a fabulous route-running tight end. And he can win in a one-on-one. You can put him out, split out as a single receiver into the short side. He can flex out. He can come in and play H-back. He can play down with his hand in the ground. So he's more versatile. He's the best versatile tight end in the draft. And when he's a pass catcher, he reminds me a little bit of Jimmy Graham. And I just think from a blueprint standpoint, Sean Payton would look at that and say, okay, I can get a middle-of-the-field operator who also helps me in the run game. I think that Colston Loveland makes a lot of sense for them.
You played for a time in New Orleans for Sean Payton. He talks all the time about a joker, a tight end or a running back to control the middle of the field, eat up those safeties, do all those things, Joel. So do you look at Loveland as a guy that could be that joker role guy for Sean Payton?
I do, but again, I think that Warren is probably a little bit more of a Kelsey type, where it's a bit more creative. You can do a lot of different things. He's more of a schoolyard type of guy, whereas Loveland is a bit more of a traditional tight end. And because of that, it's because of the help he gives in what I would call the run game, his ability to block and do it well at the point of attack. He pulls quite a bit. Remember, like Michigan's run scheme is primarily either duo or gap. And in gap, they would pull the tight ends a lot. And he's one of those guys. And in duo, you got to stand in there and just be a war daddy, man. And you just got to block head up. And a lot of times the tight end is singled up outside out there, like with a six technique stink, as you know. And he did a nice job of that. So he can help you in the run game. And then I think he's the best route running, pass catching tight end, even more so than Warren. Warren's just so creative. And he gives you kind of that Kelsey factor because of that. But Loveland, to me, fits so many different things and certainly can control the middle of the field. And I think Bo Nix would be better with him because he can help you in both areas.
Visiting with Joel Klatt, presented by Dave & Buster's in Denver.
Joel, I love it. We need a tight end. We need a running back also. Another guy that I was looking at, possibility if those tight ends are gone, maybe a Genty, Ashton Genty at the number 20. Where did you have him going, and is he a possibility in your mind for the Denver Broncos?
I had him going to Dallas. To be honest, I didn't think of him just because, as you know, I've been so adamant about line of scrimmage help. I think that Super Bowl was indicative of that. I think the college game is indicative of that. Like, if you can't control the line of scrimmage, like, you're just not going to win. And Philly just totally dominated Kansas City at the line of scrimmage. So, whether that's becoming a dominant defensive line and or getting the requisite offensive line to go out there and control the game and offer your quarterback the ability to make plays, control the game from the pocket, not have to play behind the sticks, throw the ball when you want to versus throw the ball when you need to. Candidly, like a running back is great, but I don't know if Denver is at that position yet. I still think that they need to get better at the line of scrimmage.
Joel, what about our CU contingent? What about Travis Hunter and what about Shedeur Sanders? Where'd you have those guys going?
Yeah, I think Shedeur he's number one pick worthy. I have him going number one, but I actually gave a trade. I just don't think that they're going to allow Tennessee to take him. Kind of a Eli Manning style, if you will, which I wouldn't either if I were them and if I could control it. I think that they've had really good conversations with the Giants organization. So I had the Giants moving up 2 spots to take Shedeur number one. I had Jacksonville taking Travis. I think they need help on both sides of the ball and on the outside in particular. And I think for him, he can, and I do think he will play both ways. See, the way that I think that this works is that he is a number one corner. Like, he is a top 5 corner in the National Football League, potentially. He is not a top 5 wide receiver in the National Football League. But what he can be is a really impactful number 3 slot style wide receiver. Well, if he's that role on offense, then he's only going to take 30, 35 snaps just based on game situation, philosophy, and personnel groupings. That limits his total number of snaps, and he can play the entire game on the defensive side. So now you're looking at between 60 and 85 snaps a game versus the 125 he played in college, and I think you're going to get impact on both sides of the ball from him.
Joel, Deion, it looks like he's going to be back, at least for next year. Brought on Marshall Faulk, running back coach. What'd you make of that move? And also, do you think every offseason we're going to be talking a lot about Deion possibly going to the NFL or going to another college program? Is that going to happen every year with Deion?
Well, every time that you have every entity, every program that has a coach that people like and is a really good coach, then there's always talk of this. People speculate about Ryan Day, whether he's going to go to the National Football League. So that happens. You look at that happens with coordinators. I think that those problems tend to be champagne problems. I would rather have a coach that everyone wanted and had opportunities elsewhere versus a guy that we've got to sit there and be like, well, do we want him? No one else does. glass half full is that it's a good problem to have. And yes, I do think that we're going to every year have to look at this and be like, okay, what is he going to do? And to be honest, I think it's a good problem.
I want to go back to the Broncos and their first-round pick sitting there at number 20. And I guess maybe this is just me with recency bias after watching the Super Bowl the other day, but the realization of what that Eagles defense did and their front four did, never blitzing during the course of the game and yet dominating, sacking Patrick Mahomes 6 times, making him look just unbelievably uncomfortable, and the realization that 2 dynasty offenses were stopped by teams who had dominant front fours. The Giants did it twice against Brady and the Patriots, and we saw what the Eagles did the other day. I'm going to throw this question out to all you guys, but Joel, take it first. What about the idea that you can never have enough really, really good defensive linemen, and if there's one they're saying at number 20, the Broncos should go in that direction instead of the much talked about running back or tight end? Well,
I believe that the position that is the deepest and best in this draft is defensive tackle. I also have maintained for a long time, my dad used to say this at our kitchen table when he would have his coaches around and they'd be watching that reel-to-reel film way back in the day. And I remember him talking about, I was just a kid, and he would be talking about like, hey, listen, we're going to build our defense front to back and inside out. And I used to say that to you, and I've heard other coaches obviously talk about that as well. And I believe in that. And when you look at who actually wins championships, you know, that tends to ring true. It's certainly that way right now in the college game, and it's becoming that way in the National Football League. And I think defensive tackle is the best position in this draft, and there are like excellent defensive tackles. You got guys that can get to the quarterback, can make plays. Just the 2 kids from Michigan are incredible. Mason Graham is an incredible defensive tackle. He doesn't look like it, but you watch his film, and he is totally unblockable. He's great in the run game. He's great in the passing game, rushing the quarterback. Kenneth Grant from Michigan is a heck of a player. Walter Nolan from Ole Miss, he's a heck of a player. I mean, you can go down the list. I think that there are probably 20 defensive tackles so far in this draft that I think, like, yeah, they could start in the National Football League and make their team better. So it's an interesting, you know, conversation, and it goes back to kind of what I was talking about, which is, hey man, you've got to be good at the line of scrimmage. Remember now, I always talk about this from independence, you know, and it doesn't. You can be good at the line of scrimmage regardless of if you have a good quarterback or not, right? And then, but you can't be great at quarterback unless you're really good at the line of scrimmage. Or you can't be good at running back, or you can't be good at wide receiver unless you're good at the line of scrimmage. So at some point, you've got to go back to first principles. Where do we start? What's the foundation? And you take a look at who's winning championships, and that's certainly the case.
Yeah, no question. And Philadelphia was a great example of that. All right, let me ask you real quick. What about middle linebacker? Because in today's NFL, obviously you play so much nickel, so much dime. You got to have that one dude in the middle of the football field that can affect the running game but can cover, you know, and ask to cover those, you know, tight ends, ask to cover those running backs out of the backfield. How strong is the middle linebacker position in this year's draft?
You know, it's good, but what I'm seeing is that there's a lot more like hybrid style players, and you know, guys that have played inside, they can also get out there and get on the outside and cover a little bit. I think that that's interesting to me. It's okay. An edge is okay. I don't think it's great. I think that the strength is in the interior of the defensive line. But when I look at like linebacker, I'm looking. I just pulled up kind of my big board list here. You know, there aren't guys that I'm sitting there in the top 20 or in the top 30. You know, the Schlesinger kid from UCLA is a pretty good player, as a true like middle linebacker. Jihad Campbell is a good player. I think that he can play both, but has played, you know, in and out. But to me, edge is a lot better. You got guys like Abdul Carter is an incredible player. You know, Jalen Walker is a really good player on the edge. Michael Williams, these guys on the edge. You've got like Shamar Stewart both of the Ohio State kids. That's going to be a good position. And then, like I said, defensive tackle. But interior linebacker right now is just kind of okay.
Mike, Mark, you got to get more focused here, Mark. You do. We need you focused in here, honed in here. We're supposed to – Mike asked us all a question, and – what happened?
I wasn't listening to Mike.
What
I
happened?
wasn't listening to Mike.
We could all tell. But to your point, Joel. To your point,
I don't
and
listen
to
to Mike.
Stoke, when you talk as long as I do, he just glazes over. I gave a super long answer, and so
answer.
that's just how it goes.
Mark was like, I got nothing to add.
Yeah, well, no, but to y'all's point, Joel and Evans, we saw the Rams last year. What'd they do? They go defensive front with their first 2 picks. They were picking 19th and 39th. That's right where the Broncos are going to be picking. They picked Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk, both out of Florida State. And look at the impact both of those guys had on their defensive front. You saw them against the Vikings? Oh, my gosh. Seemed like Sam Darnold was getting in the playoffs. Seemed like Sam Darnold was getting hit every other play. So, yeah, there's something to be said for that, to be able to go out there and say, okay, hey, if this thing is loaded with great top-tier defensive talent, and you want to upgrade that position, well, this might be the year to do it.
Joel, final question for me here. As a Bronco fan watching that game, that Super Bowl like you were, what kind of emotions were you feeling watching Patrick Mahomes struggle the way he did?
Honestly,
yes.
I kept thinking to myself, like, Brady never did that in the Super Bowl, and Pat's done it twice. I guess the 07, their undefeated team, they struggled in that Super Bowl, and he didn't play great. So maybe I'm revisionist in my history, but that's kind of what I was thinking.
Wasn't a blowout.
It was not a blowout. Yeah, that was not a blowout. I think that it's very clear. Wouldn't you, guys? Forgive me. I don't have the stats right in front of me. The 2 Super Bowls that he's lost, by far the 2 worst losses he's ever had in the NFL. Period.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
That's not, and they're not even really close. Like in every other game, it's one possession. I know that's what the NFL is generally. It's one possession at most. He's right in it. And it seems like it's such a clear blueprint. In both of those games, both of them, you were able to play safe coverage, umbrella coverage, generally with 2 safeties, and present pressure with a 4 or 5 man rush. And it's like, well, it's starting to become very clear that's the only way to beat Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to beat him blitzing, like Buffalo tried to do late in that game. And so it comes down to defensive line. To your point, Mike, maybe it comes down to okay, listen, we're going to have to deal with Patrick Mahomes for another 10 years. Why don't we just start loading up on defensive linemen so that he knows twice a year he's going to deal with an absolute war daddy pass rush?
Yeah. Yeah. It's something to definitely think about. So, all right. Let's see if I can sum it up the same kind of emotion that I felt a week ago. Thank you for everything you did for us this year. You were awesome. You are the best. We love your input.
Man, right in front of the other 2. This is awkward.
Yeah.
You got all 3. You got all 3 ex-girlfriends right in front of you, and you're calling one of them the best. Man,
I do think that's something one dude should say to another dude.
Hey, what can I say? The other 2 don't make me moist. So there you
wow.
go. There you go.
I'm out.
Gross.
I'm out.
Gross.
Thank you, Joel. Hey, where can they get your where can they get your mock draft?
It's this place called the Intranet. You can go there.
Well done. Well done. All right. Thanks, pal.
You got it.
See ya.
Bye.
Joel Klatt. Brought to us